Hello everyone, my name is Srikanth Victory. I posted one of the blog article on LinkedIn on the topic of Generative AI Compliance Playbook. So today I want to talk briefly about the blog, and also I want to give a quick demo how that works. With no ado, let me share my screen. So this is a blog that you could see it on my LinkedIn post. The topic is Generative AI Compliance Playbook. In other words, a data residency plus model residency. That's a compliance playbook for generative AI. When we try to implement any models across countries or across region, we want to make sure how we can try to implement these models, being more compliance and also sovereignty and trust. That's the most important thing. Building model is not a big deal nowadays. It's more important thing. It needs to be more compliance. So I emphasize that both the data residency and the model residency must remain in country to meet strict regulations across regions like the Middle East, Europe, India, Russia, and China. If you go those kind of countries, the data needs to be within the country. We cannot transmit the data outside the country. That's one of the most important thing. However, if you notice that many countries, they do not have a data center. Even you look at the top 3 cloud providers, they do not have the presence of their data centers within the country. So sometimes we have to rely on those generative models or AI models of those providers. We have to go across the region. How do you want to do that? How do you want to implement it? So I put it like 4-step process. Number 1, we want to keep all the sensitive data and models within the national borders, meaning we want to keep it within the country, in countries, very important thing. Next one is, since we want to go rely on the different generative model across the region, we have to go outside. In that case, we want to do pseudonymize the data before it ever leaves the secure boundary. In other words, the data is going to be all the database, all the data is going to be within the country. And when you try to transmit, we want to make sure it's going to be pseudonymized. And then we have to use a secure channel with a zero data retention for inference. Let's say we try to do the inference across the country. We are going to rely on US region or any other Middle East region. So let's say, assume that when we are having a country, Qatar, right? We want to go and rely on we want to go and inference that in Dubai. Okay, because in Qatar, let's assume that when we don't have that particular data center or cloud provider, or any other country can take it, even Russia or any other country. If they don't have a presence, we want to rely on other region to make inference. In that case, we want to do secure channel and with a zero data retention, meaning no prompts, inputs, and outputs are going to be stored locally within the cloud provider or any other region. That's very important, zero data retention. And then once after doing the inference, once we get the inference back after processing, we want to do de-pseudonymize, meaning we want to the re-identification. Whatever we did that pseudonymize the data, we want to do the de-pseudonymize the data to restore business meaningful way and more safely. So these are the 4-step process. On a lighter note, as you know that with the generative AI, writing is not a big deal, right? Writing any blog is not a big deal, but truly reflect our own ideas or innovations. So we want to give a real demo of how it works in practice. So nowadays, anything I write a blog, I want to give a demo because these are the innovations, ideas, and ideations. I want to showcase the work. So with no ado, I'm sharing my code. I've written a code. This is one of the Vertex AI anonymization I use at GCP. So if you look at that data is all going to be within the country. I try to do de-pseudonymize this data. If it is, say for example, if it is going to be a name, or if it is going to be SSN, or if it's going to be date of birth, everything is going to be, we are going to do the pseudonymize the data, and then we are going to inference it, and then we are going to get the de-pseudonymize the data. So in other words, zero data retention anywhere else right across the border. So let's say we got all the data. I created the data. I just put that one hot-coded data. It's having a lot of information. It's about the SSN number, it might be there, policy number is there, date of birth is there, everything is there. Now I'm trying to do run this one. When you try to do it, so it's going to do, look at that. This is the original prompt. The original prompt is having all the information. When you try to do the pseudonymize the prompt, I call it anonymized. It's anonymized, and I really mean that when pseudonymize the data. When you try to do pseudonymize the data, you could see that when all of them is going to be filled with a different name, different number. It's going to be kind of encrypted. The people cannot understand. They cannot de-pseudonymize the data. And then I try to do all the inference and everything is done. And finally, response from model. Okay, we get all the data here. And then I try to get the response. The final response, de-anonymize. In other words, de-pseudonymize the data. I try to get all the real data back. In other words, I try to do, after the inference, I try to do the de-pseudonymize. I get the data with the real name. So I try to showcase all the numbers, try to re-identify the data. So that's the demo. I hope it helps. I would encourage you to read this blog, and if you like it, you can give a comment or likes, or if you have any questions, if you try to implement it in your company, or if you're having this kind of scenario across the country, you want to deal with this kind of implementation, please let me know. I'll be happy to share with you my experience. Thank you so much.